Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Making Waves podcast. I'm your host, Giancarlo Nadeau, and joining me now, she is the assistant coach with your Coastal Tsunami. Her name is Whitney Juszkiewicz. Whitney, how's it going? Thanks so much for jumping on with me.
Yeah, it's going great. It's beautiful to be on the coast. Thank you so much for having me out here tonight.
Well, it's certainly great to have you, and certainly looking forward to this episode. Let's start it off where it all began. Talk to me about where you were born, where you grew up.
I'm not actually a BC born girl. I'm actually an Alberta bred. Grew up, played my whole career in Red Deer. I grew up in Edmonton, then I moved into Red Deer, took myself over actually deeper into the prairies to Saskatchewan for university, played for the Huskies. I came on back after that and played for senior women's for Team Alberta. I went to the 2005 Nationals, and then kind of just found myself moving into away from player career into more of coaching and mentoring type aspects of the game. But Edmonton born, bred, die hard Edmonton fans. So it was a good run last year.
Well, it certainly was a good run, and I feel like people from Edmonton really don't have a choice except to play hockey and to embrace hockey. So was it the same for you?
I actually had a flip on that one. My mom put me in a ridiculous amount of classes to try and actually deter me from playing the sport of hockey. But I mean, I just fell in love with it. I remember watching my cousin grow up. He got a scholarship to Union College, and I just, he was so spoiled to even have like a shooting station downstairs. So every time we had family meals, everyone was around the table. As soon as I was dismissed, I was downstairs shooting pucks. So I just fell in love with it. It was kind of the cool thing. I thought it was neat. There wasn't a lot of girls that were playing the sport. Um, so it just kind of hooked me early on. And as the sport grew, we would go and watch junior hockey games of his actually down in Fort Saskatchewan. And I just loved the game. And like I said, my mom tried to deter me, but I just fell in love with it even more. So she knew that she would have a hockey player for life.
Yeah, there you go. And you mentioned earlier how the Edmonton Oilers are your favorite team, but what about a favorite player? Somebody you liked growing up and somebody that you like now?
I actually started my career as a goalie. As funny as that was, I just thought, I don't know, there was just an aspect about maybe the equipment or the allure of being in that net. So when I was young and I was very blessed to actually get to go and watch some of the glory years of Edmonton. I got to see Wayne Gretzky. I got to see a lot of great players with him. But a goaltender that I got to watch growing up, which was like the king of the pad stack, was Bill Ranford, pardon me. And I just loved watching him in net, and it was awesome. Just as a young kid in Edmonton, the energy, if anyone's ever been in that rink. But there was nothing better than seeing him all of a sudden throw out the pad stacks in the early 90s and the crowd get fired up on that one. So I fell in love with that position, and then it made natural sense. I found myself closing my eyes a lot when I was in net, and that wasn't the best thing to do. So I moved up one more position and fell in love with defense, and goalies were always my best friends. So that's where I settled in my career, but I still have a love for goalies.
There you go. And you were talking earlier how you would how you always enjoyed shooting pucks when you were growing up, but there was never really somebody for you to kind of look up to. Was there any female whatsoever, in any hockey capacity that you looked up to as a role model and maybe a mentor?
When I was growing up, there was a few camps that were kind of going on where they might have brought in some females, and a girl who visited our community quite a bit was Cassie Campbell. And so that was kind of someone who was an advocate for the game. We are so close to Calgary, being in Edmonton, and so we did have some Hockey Canada, and you would get a couple viewings from Haley Wickenheiser, and as she was kind of in her prime, and we were all looking up. But I just remember Cassie Campbell being a big figure growing up, really advocating the game for female hockey players, getting to go to a camp and actually having her be there for the week. Those types of experiences are what started to draw me more into the female game as opposed to just playing integrated.
Well, now you're a coach yourself and it's kind of come full circle. But before we jump into that, I got to ask you about another industry that you've been involved in, the movie industry. I don't think a lot of people know this, coach, but you've certainly had your fair share of the spotlight.
Yeah, like I said, when I was done hockey, it was a totally different time than it is nowadays. Looking down back at, the early 2000s, wondering where someone could go as their playing career started to come to an end. You'd already done school. So I actually stepped away from hockey and found myself going for 4 more years of education and getting a film degree, and made a decision to actually travel to Vancouver. They had mountains. Toronto didn't have very good mountains. So when I was fighting to try and get on the screen and everyone was saying no, I knew I could go sit on a mountain, ride a snowboard, and be in a happy place. So that found me in the industry here in Vancouver, and just started working, started in stunts actually, used a lot of my physique to kind of make my way into that industry, and then had a natural knack for not being afraid of talking in front of large groups. So acting came natural to me. I worked for the Vancouver Theater Sports, which is an improv troupe on Granville Island. So I worked there in their rookie year, cutting my teeth on that stage, and then just working on local shows around town as they were coming in.
Yeah, talk to me about some of those shows and some of those movies. Are there any that your players or some of your fans are gonna, know?
Like I said, you're kind of getting a feel here that I was about a 2000s kid, and so the Mighty Ducks was a huge part of my childhood. And during the pandemic, they actually Disney came up and brought the TV show up north because we figured out how to deal with the pandemic as well as the film industry, and so they were approved to continue filming. And I got a call from a friend of mine just asking me, and air quotes, they were looking for Lululemon type moms. And I said, yeah, sure. Like, I'll send in some pictures. I got selected, and I was a double for one of the main characters on the show in terms of, going on the ice doing stunts. And people were like, you seem to understand what's going on here. And I said, I sure do. And so next thing you know, I'm on the show for the season, and I'm changing outfits from being a player to being a ref to being a coach to doing everything. And it was really awesome. A kid that I had coached, her name is Haley Lee, and she actually had a speaking role. So it was really cool to show up on set and see some of the kids as well as fellow colleagues from the community who were getting work because the hockey show was in town. So that was a really fun experience during the pandemic to hang out with that group, to be on set, to go to Queen's Park, to go to North Surrey, and just see, hockey and my passion for acting come together was pretty cool.
Yeah, are there any skills or any lessons from that industry that you brought into your coaching career?
If anyone's ever tried to make either a commercial or even just content or a movie, you can't really do it by yourself. It really is a community effort, and you really do have to let other people take charge in terms of having the trust to do their job and the responsibilities. So that's a huge part that, it felt very natural for me being on set, working with a team, understanding the roles in front of and behind the camera. So that was a natural translation when I came, from a player, then going into the film industry and learning, those camaraderie and roles, and then coming back to coaching and sport more on a leadership role. You started to see those similar aspects of everyone having a job. Maybe you have the players now, those are the actors in front of the cameras, and you got the coaching staff, and those are the people directly behind operating. And then you got the people even above that in the administration roles who, are making the whole thing happen. So there is a direct translation in terms of a club team and a production organization trying to, produce not only entertainment, but something that when people look back, when we finish those films and we call it a wrap, we were very, very proud of the hard work. And just the same as when a hockey team or any other sports team, says we're finished our competition, and that was an amazing experience that we're going to last a lifetime.
Fantastic. That's really awesome to hear. Obviously, life as an athlete, life as a coach, life in the sports world, not always sunshine and rainbows, a lot of obstacles.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, certain people face more obstacles than others. And for you, I'm sure there's some that you've had to face more just simply because you are a female. Is that true? And if it is, how have you been able to deal with that?
Um, I don't really know if I want to call them obstacles. I think it's just a reality is really what it is. When I was going and getting my HP1 certification, and we were doing them in person pre-COVID, and there was a room full of over 70 people, and I was one of the only females in that room, you know, going to get that type of certification. And when I was coaching and I was head coaching, you know, a U15 tier one team where I was cutting my teeth and just trying to get in that leadership experience, I didn't see very many other females on the bench. And any other women who are working in this industry in a coaching capacity, you know, have probably experienced when people walk up to them accidentally, you know, saying, "Oh, you're the manager," or "Can you give this to the coach?" Or, you know, just not recognizing that that individual could actually be the coach, or that individual could be someone of a leadership role, even on the male side of the industry. So it's not really an obstacle, but it is a reality check for a lot of women. And I'm not the only one that even to this day are pushing hard. I mean, Jessica Campbell just cracked it in the NHL, but I know she has been working so hard in so many other leagues and other capacities to try and just, you know, get to do what she loves. And I know that there's women that are working in the BCEHL right now as a coach. I wasn't the only girl who got to work with our U16 group. There was another lady I work with, Amy DeBray. You know, she's cutting her teeth and she's working real hard. And when it comes down to it, like an organization like the Tsunami, you just recognize talent. And regardless of, you know, who that person may be, if they got the right stuff for the job, you're starting to see more opportunity of those girls and those women getting a voice, getting an opportunity to stand beside and to contribute in the same way that their male counterparts world contribute. So it's going to be a continuous push. There are still some characters and some actors out there that maybe don't feel like that it should be a shared microphone, but you're seeing more and more girls and women who know this game. There is no male or female way of teaching or coaching this game. There's just hockey, and we're starting to see organizations pick the right people for the job. And I can't support those women and say thank you enough to the Tsunami organization for seeing that and for being, you know, trailblazers of their own as we see more women step into these roles.
Oh, for sure. And, you know, you truly are a trailblazer yourself. And that kind of leads me to my next question here. What message,
Mhm.
what sort of words of wisdom, words of advice do you want to give to younger females who probably aspire to be just like you?
Um, I would say don't be afraid of your own voice. Don't wait for permission, you know, for someone to recognize you. If you know, feel like you have something to contribute to the conversation, you've listened to what's going around the room, you know, and what you're going to say is on par of what the subject matter is. You know, put your hand up and share everything, because we need different perspectives. And regardless of gender, people are going to bring different perspectives to the table. And that's only how we're going to make sure that we've covered all our bases and that we've potentially created a full range athlete, a holistic athlete who can not only think the game, but also, you know, play the game and not get burnt out, which is a huge part of this game. And so for those women that are wanting to be in high level, whether they move on to the PWHL or whether they are like, you know, Jessica trying to cut their teeth and continue pushing into the NHL, there's a place for every single one of you if you have the knowledge and you have the talent. But I just say be brave, be bold, and go out there and be yourself pretty much, you know, and don't apologize. Don't apologize for your voice. Be respectful, but don't apologize for your voice.
Fantastic. And of course, we can't talk about hockey and females without talking about the PWHL. What an exciting time to be, you know, around for that. And you must feel pretty proud to kind of see how far it's come since you were younger.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely probably wouldn't have walked away if I would have had something like that, that carrot in front of me. That's a pretty amazing thing for our young athletes. But there was a lot of women that fought really, really hard to make that happen for the next generation. And it is pretty incredible. It seems so big and so far away, but I mean, in their inaugural season last year, I mean, I even did a reference check for one of the coaches. So it was so far away, but it was so close because it's people that I've worked with that are on those benches. It's people that you know, maybe like Howie Draper, for example, like I knew him growing up. My mom actually worked with him to start the University of Alberta hockey program. Back in '97, they were trying to get all players, any players together to get a program. And, Howie and my mom and other people went ahead and turned that into a dynasty. So those types of individuals from your childhood end up being, head coaches of the women's NHL basically, and players. Like I ran into a player that I've known from Team BC that has gone on to play, Ohio State. Ran into her at the rink. I was just going in for a training session. She was going in to help another coach on the ice, and we saw each other. I got to congratulate her on her championship, and she got to share with me that she was a little nervous about going to the draft here at the end of June. And then all of a sudden, I follow on my social media and I see she's been drafted second round. So, you know, it's it it kind of takes your breath away, and can bring a little emotion to you when you think about how close it is for the next generation. And as a coach and as someone who's helped and worked, how close it is too. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that these girls have something like this to work towards, and it's pretty cool to go to conferences like the NHLCA and be talking with my colleagues who are on those benches, who are working with those teams. So I can't say enough about the journey of all the people ahead of me who have made this happen.
No, fantastic. And I really do appreciate you being open and honest about that. Obviously, it is a pretty emotional topic, and definitely appreciate your honesty there and your journey pretty much going as smooth as possible right now. You're with the Coastal Tsunami. You had a busy week. You were, leading the summer camp for a number of different age groups. What's it like to be over here on the Sunshine Coast? And I guess, did you ever think you'd have an opportunity over here?
I have family here, so I've visited the coast before, and I just can't say enough how beautiful it is. My favorite summertime activity is paddleboarding, and I mean, you can't get a better place than this to get on a board and to enjoy the waterways. I've always enjoyed the people, got out and did farmers markets and just kind of saw the artisans in the community. And so I really enjoyed the coast all the way from Gibson's all the way up to Powell River. I just fell in love with the people, the community. I came out here and did some mentorship. I was brought in by the Sunshine Coast Blues and did some coaching conferences, and just never saw myself, really doing any kind of full-time coaching here. Just thought it was a really amazing community. But when there was a little bit of rumor on the mill that there was a team coming in, my ears perked up, and I just had to kind of get a little more information. And then I found out that, Rick Hopper was involved, and I knew him through BC Hockey and when he was up in Powell River and the things he did with that program up there. And so I kind of just gave him a call and bugged him a little bit, and I guess great minds thought alike, and he kind of brought it to fruition. So I never, when I never saw myself in this position, never knew that they would even have a hockey team. So when it came to fruition, it was a pretty awesome experience to be able to be a part of that identity and to build that culture in the community.
Oh, for sure. And feel free to bug Rick as much as you like. I want to ask you here about something else. Success happens when preparation meets opportunity. That's something that you had in your press release. And for whatever reason, it's kind of stuck with me, that sentence. What does that sentence mean to you?
Um, Funny enough, when I was, just trying to get through school and also make some money at the same time, I worked in a pretty well known, it's not there anymore. It's been closed down and retired, but it was a country bar in Central Alberta called Billy Bob's. And funny enough, our manager was a Buddhist, and some of his teachings, really got, I was a hot-headed kid, fired up, and he really got some teachings through. And when I wanted to get to a certain part, I wanted to be behind the bar, I wanted to be at the main bar, and I worked my way up, from first position. And it was always a saying, set yourself up for success. And, we knew that as to make sure we were stocked good, we were ready to go with enough product to sell our customers. But that lesson, took me not just from a great, job experience, but it took me into school. It took me into my professional career where I became an entrepreneur, building my own career. And it was, I like to say, even at this camp that we had this week, I want to go plug and play. As soon as Monday hits or as soon as the season starts, I don't want to be worrying about preparing. I don't want to be worrying about trying to get everything organized and to get everything. I just want to show up, plug it in, start playing, so that preparation in advance, set yourself up for success. That turned into, when you are prepared, an opportunity presents itself, you have that moment to potentially succeed. And we know 110% that if you're not prepared, an opportunity presents itself, you might be out of luck on that situation, right? So whether or not it's an individual just trying to set their life up and get through the day to day, or whether it's an organization, if you're in that preparation and you're making sure you're organized, when that opportunity presents you, all you got to do is take a deep breath and jump in, because there's a high chance of success. And so that's always been a motto that's really stuck, not only with how I work towards my athletes and with my athletes, but just my own personal motto in life, right? When opportunity comes, which it did, for example, with the tsunami, if you're prepared and organized and ready to go, you got somewhere you could go. And so that's where that really comes from.
Fantastic. Your answers have been great, and I've truly, appreciated getting the opportunity to learn a little bit more about you and kind of hear your story. We're going to wrap things up pretty quickly here, Whitney, but of course, I have to ask you this because yesterday was quite a big day for the PGHL and the Coastal Tsunami, announcing your hiring, the PGHL breaking the news that you are the first ever full-time assistant coach in the Pacific Junior Hockey League. That's pretty crazy to think about, but I'm sure it means something to you. So how would you describe it?
Um, I almost had to, like, check in with you and really double check and be like, are you guys sure? Like, there had to have been someone else, but I know there's women that have worked in this industry. They may not have gotten maybe, like, the same kind of recognition that we were able to put out there and announce, right? But what it really just means is, it just means I'm one of many. There's a lot of more women that are coming. They are good. They know this game. They have a passion for this game. Um, and if all I can do is just help continue building relationships so people get used to working with more women, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be here. I'm going to serve my community. I'm going to serve my athletes. I'm going to make sure that my head coach, Brad, has everything he needs to lead this team, and I'm going to do as best as I can to make this community proud to cheer for us, proud to want to come out, proud to spend the money in the rinks. I'm going to work my butt off so I can hold my head high and say I'm part of the Coastal Tsunami and the legacy, and history that you're making. But I know that I'm really just holding the door open for more women and for more people to come on down. And who knows, right? We saw Chloe Primerano. She was playing on the male side in the CSS, right? She even had a little bit of WHL with the Giants. Like, it's not only going to be personnel. We could potentially start seeing even more players breaking in as this game moves away from just physical rock'em sock'em to finesse, educated plays, right? So I'm just gonna keep pushing. So like I said, people get used to the next wave, because I don't think people see gender anymore. I think they just see the right people for the jobs, and that's where we're all going to move forward in this industry.
Well, the slogan this year for the Coastal Tsunami is to make a splash and make some waves, and we're certainly doing that. And I know you are doing that as well. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to jump on with me and share your story. And looking forward to a tremendous season with you for the inaugural one here on the Sunshine Coast.
Thank you so much. It's great to have me here. Thank you so much. I'm so happy. Thank you.
All right, Whitney, you got to bug me if I say this wrong, but that was Whitney Juszkiewicz, the new assistant coach with your Coastal Tsunami. I got the thumbs up there, so I did it right. Whitney, thank you so very much. And again, looking forward to an incredible season with you.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's Whitney. I'm John Carlo. We're going to be back with a brand new episode of the Making Waves podcast next week. Talk to you very, very soon.